Great. Now let's turn to the post office side. So Jimmy, this is your area of expertise. So tell us, what was the post office role in this Shipageddon?
Trying to survive. It was honestly, I mean, look, it happens every year, peak period, right? And they planned, but they didn't plan for 100%, a 50% increase. They went for the year before, they had 800 million packages. And in context, the daily volume triples, but they deal with it. And especially the last mile. Last mile, is very flexible. They'll put people out at 5 a.m. They'll put them back out at 5 at night. They'll run 3 waves of delivery. They clear out the post office every day. It was the network that was the challenge. And one of the values of that is multi-carrier relationships, right? So everybody had some business, with the Postal Service, and that let them make the shifts. They don't have the ability like FedEx and UPS to turn it off. So they ended up with quite a bit of business. NMOs, non-compatibles, were a big issue for them. And so that was one piece that was a challenge, because they don't have the technology to sort the non-compatibles and large, extra large packages. They like, as you know, the Post Service likes stuff like 5 pounds and under 10, type scenarios. So that was a challenge. And the pandemic was still hitting them pretty hard. I was explaining it to somebody. I found out one of the plants and they were backed up. Trucks were backed up a half a mile going into the site. And the challenge was they didn't have the forklift drivers, because people were out on with COVID or quarantining because of COVID, because of a family member. And they can't just put anyone on a forklift. They go through all this training and everything else. So, they lost it on the dock. They lost a little bit of the first in, first out. And it was just a sheer volume issue. They did their darndest. They worked hard. They delivered 7 days a week until 9 o'clock at night. And, I think they did deliver, the holidays under tremendous stress. I mean, it was a 400 million package increase over 30 days. That's a lot of extra packages. And once again, everybody has a plan, but I don't think you really couldn't adjust your plan. If you think about a pandemic, you knew it was going to be heavy. It was March, April, maybe May. But you couldn't go buy sorters at that point. You couldn't, even hiring people became really challenging in the workforce because of how much unemployment was out there. People were like, staying home. So, it was an interesting challenge, but I think they fundamentally stood up to it. And I'll tell you, I think the marketplace was pretty forgiving of them. They knew that they were doing anything possible, and they did bail out a lot of business that they didn't normally have. So,
yeah. Well, Jim, you said everybody has a plan. And I thought you were going to quote Mike Tyson. Second half of that quote: everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Until they get punched in the face. Well, that was a punch in the face. When you're looking at volume that you never experienced before. 800 million was last year. That's a lot of packages, and they hit 1.2 billion. In the same period. So, and it wasn't just that there was just extra packages. If they were entered in the last mile, it was all network. The last mile was taken care of. Once again, a big company like Amazon that leverages that last mile, they weren't hurt as bad as other retailers that are going through the network. So, a lot of learnings from it. I just talked to them the other day. They've already purchased 58 more parcel sorters. They have leases on buildings so they can run the logistics separately. They learned from it, and like every company does, I think the part of it is this. The postmortem is great to learn out what happened. I'm a big believer in pre-mortems. All right, think about it right now. What could go wrong between now and December? And start planning for some of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to come back to that question in a minute, but I do want to ask you, Post Office took a lot of flack in the media this past year, and Post Office worked really hard. I'm sure a lot of those criticisms were unfair, but fundamentally, how would you address that media critique?
Well, look, they whenever there's a change in Postmaster General, they go through structure changes, and they went through some structure changes with it. The new guy, he only started in June, in fairness to him. And then the election hit, and that was a big distraction. But they delivered on the election. That they hit at 99.9. Once again, a great performance there. They did make some adjustments in their network at that same time. Probably a little close to peak period for what I would think about it. But, once again, with the amount of employee availability there, I heard numbers that, some post offices were down 70% of their employees. I mean, COVID, they go to work, they work closely together, and then, things spread. And then one person gets it and everyone else has to, for 14 days, so, under the circumstances, heroic work. I mean, once again, a lot of people got sick. A lot of people died. It's they really did deliver for the country, and not just during peak period, the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jim, I want to ask you one more question about that, because you alluded to the plan part. So, of course, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy just came out with the 10-year plan. And I'd love for you to comment on that and your thoughts on that plan and how it brings that $158 billion cost down to something sustainable while at the same time maintaining service. What are your thoughts on the plan?
Well, it's very strong on very bullish on growth in shipping and packages and e-commerce. As we've heard before, that 5-year, we got a 5-year jump, which is now 2026. And but I think that they have plans to do capital investments. I talked about some of the sorters, but they're also announced new buildings to sort packages, pure buildings just for packages. And if they do that well, and that's not gonna happen overnight, it's not gonna probably happen for this peak period, but I do think that works well. A little concerning the mail. There was some comments and not a whole lot of strategies on mail, frankly, that I think mail still has a lot of shelf life and how you communicate with people. And frankly, the postal network needs that combination of mail and packages to, it's a universal service. It's a national treasure in my mind that goes everywhere 6 days a week. And we should do everything possible to let that continue to happen. So they need help from Congress. They've been working on that for years. I think right now, having been on a lot of those calls, I think they're getting pretty close. It's Washington, though. You never know. So, but I think that, with legislative support on some of the things that need to be fixed, give them the money to make those capital investments so they can grow the shipping business. And once again, everybody has a niche, and no one, wants the Postal Service not to be out there delivering packages.